Hey everybody, it's Linda Grindle, and I'm here with Jason
Hi.
Tempinski.
Yes. Thank you for having me back. I
Oh,
appreciate it so
sure,
much.
sure. So a lot of people liked your last video, and you were saying that they really were interested in what you were tapping into for the future.
Yeah.
And can
Yeah.
you brief us on that again?
Yeah, I was talking a little bit about last year. It was kind of, this would be over the course, I got messages that it would be over the course of 250 years, all this would be happening. And then probably 2 months ago, it was okay, so it's going to be within the next year. And it was just an explanation of what would be happening with the earth shifts, what would be going on, or the earth shift, Gaia's shift, and how what would be kind of happening, which it would be mainly focused on cleansing and purging of negative energies throughout the planet.
Right.
Meaning in the form of rains and things like that, and washing away just residual energies that have been there for forever and are still there, which I asked for clarification or examples, and they were saying, like Hurricane Katrina, that was an example of purging away just old residual wartime energies and things like that. So over the course of the next year, there will be a lot of rains, and they mentioned that it would also be anywhere that our deserts would no longer be deserts anymore.
Oh yeah. So,
Um,
but you did see pretty significant storms,
yeah,
like I did. Yeah, not a light winter.
no, I think it's even ramping, well, not ramping up, but I think just with what's been happening over the past weeks. I know September specifically is supposed to be a lot of rain, a lot of floodings and things like that. And
Oh, Spain is going through a hell of a flood right now.
yeah. Um, but the thing is that, the last time I talked about it, and then I have spoken to some people since, and they're like, oh my God, this is doomsday scenario. And I just have reassured people that, this information was shared with me as a means to inform, but it's also, there is a certain thing at play right now where attention is creation. If we see this as a process of purification and of purging and decluttering and everything else, which essentially we're supposed to be doing right now too, in terms of
Right. And I feel Mother Earth is re-evaluating.
Yeah.
So how about the fires? Is that another part of cleansing?
They mentioned fires. It wasn't, it just seemed like the water was, using water as purification was the biggest aspect of that, which is also related to, and I don't think I mentioned this last time, with the ice caps. One side, it is a product of the global warming, but there's an aspect to Antarctica, for example, that it was one of the original, I guess you could call it, civilizations on the planet. It was like Eden, and they had extreme, advanced technologies, things that we are not aware of. And there was also a way that the people and the civilizations and the beings who were there actually stored a lot of this ancient knowledge in the water in the Antarctica ice caps. So this melting is actually releasing this old knowledge and these ancient.
Wow.
Um,
That is amazing.
and
Are we going to find things that long lost?
it's, I mean, I know that there's some things going on politically with Antarctica in terms of, I think Russia has some things there, but and it wouldn't surprise me if there is interest because of this type of knowledge in figuring out, there is supposed to be a pyramid or pyramids there as well. But once the ice is gone, obviously there's going to be more water and the flooding, but it's all part of the same scenario of the purging and also releasing this knowledge that has been buried there for since the ice age. So
Right.
and I think that the energies that are associated with the water are also kind of influencing our awareness and things like that. And
Right. Right.
that.
Well, that sounds like fun. So how do you pick this up? When do you get these hits?
It's a combination. So the interesting thing is that some of it comes from the QHHT sessions, which is the hypnosis I do. They're always about the client and their guidance and everything else. So it's never, unless if it's already predetermined, like asking curiosity questions and finding out more information about things.
Yeah.
But I've been having a lot of sessions, which I don't feel like is too common with a lot of practitioners, where it's like a galactic council coming through, or a client who has never been to Earth before and they're a light being, or they're from some other part of the galaxy and they're here just to help with everything that's going on now. And I get this, they share this information with me. And it's the first time that it happened, I was just like, well, what exactly do you want me to do with this?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're very straightforward. I mean, this is to inform, this isn't to create fear. You can do with it what you wish. I mean, it's kind of a compliment, I think, that they're telling me these things, is,
Right,
and
exactly.
I'm not going to be manipulating people or trying to scare them or anything like that. So that's why I'm so careful about not scaring people, because
Right.
that's not, I don't want to be in trouble from some galactic place or whatever else. So that's the primary way. But then I do writing, and stuff just starts coming to me, and I have
Wow,
visions.
I love it. And you're doing plenty of records about it too, right?
Yeah.
So are you kind of like, well, you're a hypnotist then? Like Dolores Cannon type?
Yeah. So I do follow in those footsteps. It has been changing so much. So it's gone into another level, at least for me, in terms of getting information and being told things from galactic councils. And it's so much more than the past life thing now. It's gone into an entirely different phase.
Entirely different. You were talking about, you had somebody that had such an interesting reading.
Yeah. And it's interesting in the fact that when people have a quantum healing hypnosis session, it's vital that they know that they're safe, they know that they're protected, their higher selves, everything. Part of the hypnosis is going through visualization of safety and protection and everything else. Under hypnosis, according to Dolores, and I agree, it's like lying is impossible. Like it's impossible to lie when you're under hypnosis.
Really?
But which I had an experience recently that the question is if there are like energies that are growing that are not necessarily from the light, what role they could play in terms of coming into a hypnosis before the sessions even started.
Right.
So I did encounter that, and it was really the question of, because as practitioners, it's also a matter of knowing that people are sent to us for more than, it's not just a matter of someone saying, oh, he looks good. It's about it looks like it'd be helpful.
Yeah.
there's a deeper connection, and it's always something about the practitioner as well. So the question was, is why did I have this experience with a client where it was questionably some type of trickster
Energy form.
energy form that was trying to, not, I guess, manipulate the session a little bit. My gut the whole time was like, this just doesn't sound right. And I think the thing that I took away from it is we are, especially right now, in a time where we need to be protecting ourselves.
How do
And
you recommend protecting?
one, I know that I said it earlier, attention is creation. So it's where you put your focus. So it's important to, it's okay to acknowledge that there is kind of a darkness force in the universe, and even on the planet and Earth and politics, if you want to go there, but not really letting yourself succumb to that.
Yeah.
And also just there's simple things as visualizations, like imagining, even in QHHT, it's a pyramid of light as protection around yourself every morning. You can do it for other people. Dolores even claimed, like, if you live in a bad area and you don't want people to see your house, in terms of, would that be a good place to rob?
Yeah.
Imagining the big pyramid, and it kind of masks yourself. So it doesn't have to be anything complex, but I think the important thing is, if you're the type that thinks that just ignoring or not paying attention to the darkness and chaos and everything else, it's kind of, I don't know, you're not protecting yourself by doing that, I guess, would be the way to put it.
Right.
So
So don't get a gun, just put the white light around. I do that a lot. I envision a white sparkly energy all around the house.
yeah,
And when you're reading too, you can do like I even see whales and dolphins like it's an ocean around me.
I like that, actually. I might start using it.
Yeah, it works really well. When I was at Angel, I used to sit and concentrate on it just to protect me, because some people will carry some baggage. I visually could see one woman in particular that I'm thinking of. It happened more than once, but she had a son-in-law that really had some issues. And I saw the black spidery energy form on top of him. It was stuck with him. And when he died and I did a reading again, it was gone. Because it can't follow you over there.
Right.
And he was a totally different person, very kind and nice and apologetic.
That's interesting you bring that up, because earlier this year, again, I don't want to give details, but I met with someone who had historically been told by, or not told by, but mediums, and those who are sensitive thought that he just radiated darkness. One person I knew who's a medium said, his guides were like, no, stay away from this person, which I didn't know any of this coming into the session. And it ended up that going into hypnosis, it was his higher self revealed that he is like a pure light energy love being that came to the earth as a volunteer on the earth plane to help with everything that's going on right now in terms of raising vibrations, everything else. But because he was so powerful as a light being, that he was attracting all the negative. So it was almost like a moth to a flame in terms of what he carried around. And it was also, he had various substance issues and things like that too, which he would beat himself up over. And it came through the session as, no, this is part of what these beings or these entities are trying to do to make you forget and to,
Right. And they're drawn to, sometimes the light will keep them away. Sometimes they'd love
yeah,
to consume them.
yeah. So that it's interesting that you brought that up, because it just that was a really powerful session that, you know, sometimes it is the matter of someone being surrounded by darkness, but it's also not necessarily because they are themselves. So,
What was the scariest event you ever had? Was it that recent one or something else?
I mean, the recent one didn't really scare me. It kind of pushed me to realize I need to be a little bit more protective of myself when I do sessions, and just in general, because I don't know, I kind of have been the one that if I don't pay attention to it, it doesn't exist.
Right, exactly.
But that's not the whole story. So to be presented with something that's like, okay, well, I guess, I need to take this seriously. Scariest, I think, was when I first started, and because part of the hypnosis is actually, um, we call on the higher self, and sometimes it's spirit guides. Higher self's just a general term. It could be galactic councils, whatever else. But it was this presence that when I asked to speak to the higher self, in my mind's eye, I saw like this big samurai like standing between me and the client, which I didn't fully pick up on
At that time, yeah.
but I totally saw it. It was like a samurai with a big sword and those big helmets.
Wow.
And I said, "Is this client's higher self?" And he said, "No, I'm a protector spirit." And it was this energy that was extremely strong, and I was actually intimidated, and I even and this was like my third or fourth session, so it was like
And not everyone has this.
no, that was the only time that something came through. Well, there was more of a story to it, that he had had a lifetime with this woman several lifetimes ago, and she's a sensitive, extremely powerful. She was killed several times, and he had actually decided after one of his deaths to become her guide for all time and protect her. So it was the first time I had ever heard of a protector spirit.
Yeah.
Um, and he answered questions, but it was very, I asked, I was like, is it okay that I'm asking these questions? And he just made it very clear that I'm her protector. I am her protector.
Wow.
So it wasn't scary per se, but it was just,
Could be intimidating.
yeah, I felt really intimidated. And that's the only time that's happened.
Because I'll tell you, the male guy that talks to me, he's not warm and cozy. He can be very frank. There's love emanating from him, but like I tell everybody, when my daughter was going through COVID and I was so scared,
Yeah.
I was worried about her, and he said, just cut me off midstream and said, practice what you preach. In other words, don't be afraid.
That's true. I mean, it's even in sometimes when I am communicating with higher selves, it's sometimes they're screaming, like yelling.
Oh, whoa. I never got screaming, because I'd be like, bitch. Oh, hell to the no. I know you ain't talking to me, jumping.
But
So
it's like, and sometimes it's a matter they forget about volume because they're not in the human body, and some of them haven't been human. So sometimes they will be like, I'll ask a question, and it's just like, she needs to blah blah, and I'm kind of like, well, first of all, can we turn this down a little bit?
Right.
But I've learned it's like they take on a persona and way of communication that will get through to you, and especially if that particular woman was very vocal and she wouldn't really listen and everything else. So it actually made sense that I guess it's true that if that's how she's gonna listen, if I mean screaming in the air or whatever else they have to do. So
wow.
yeah.
I want to tell you too, like when they first told me that I was going to do a YouTube channel, I had got exposed to YouTube via Kirsten Langston, Third Eye Champagne. She had the whole setup. She had the cameras, makeup, everything was beautiful. And I had a good time, but I thought, oh, this is a lot of work. Plus you got to brush your hair. And I was standing in my room and he said, as clear as day, you're going to do a YouTube channel. And I was like, what? Oh my God, no, I don't want to brush my hair. And they didn't think it was funny. And he said, Linda, you will help calm people down. Now this, what, 6, 7 years ago. And I said, and Trump was president. And when he said that, because I'm a Virgo and we're here to serve, it was like, oh gosh, if you put it that way, I guess I have to do this. But the third comment he made very sternly, if your ego gets in the way, we will remove your gift. Because they knew who I was or used to be, very ego driven. A lot of us are.
Mm-hmm.
But I was pretty damaged from a childhood. I mean, it's all in my book, but I had some issues with self-love and stuff. And kind of like couldn't get my head through the door. It was so big. And wanted all the attention. And after cancer, I totally changed it. I got woke, so to speak. And I realized, it's just about the work, man. It's nothing else. It's about connecting to the higher realm. And I had given my dedication to them years ago, but when you tell the higher realm, I'm here, I am your handmaiden, you tell me, you may think, well, maybe nobody heard me, but they heard you. And they will, if whatever they need to do to change things in your life, so you keep looking at them, they'll do it. And they did with me. If you look at my life pattern after my dedication, it was like, whoa. I kind of started off with Esther Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
And that teaching, and my life fell apart. I was newlywed. I had 2 young boys and nothing was working out. And I thought, wow, a lot of good Esther Hicks did. But what it was clearing me out for the new beginning. So don't look at troubles as some sort of curse and stuff, because they won't let you go. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I
always say the best thing you can do is get out of your own way. You don't have to be picking up the cart and moving forward, putting on a circus, or all you got to do is breathe and relax.
Yeah. I completely, I've always been the fighter, and up until doing this, and I need a degree for everything, and I need to be the top of the class, and I need to do that. And then, the funny thing is that when I first went to college, when I was, right out of high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to be. And it was like marine biology, all this different stuff. And then I took my first philosophy class as an elective, and it blew my mind.
It hit you. Yeah.
Because it was the first time that I was actually realized that the world isn't how we're taught it is. And I was learning about myself, and I kept thinking, I wish I would have, why aren't there classes like this in high school? And so then it was just, I didn't even question it. And, I had the father that was like, you could be a doctor, you could do all this. And I said, so I'm going to be a philosophy major. And
he didn't like that.
But I couldn't figure it, I couldn't stop. And I kept taking these classes, and I had this really awesome, like, feminist professor that she was just like, she had no fear to question everything. And, but then it was more, I was really good a student, and I had a lot of knowledge, but now I kind of, looking back, it's like, I knew it, but I didn't really understand it. And so it was like, I had to get knocked off of my, intellectual horse.
Right.
And I'm aware of that side of myself, and I always am. It's a little easier to control now. But the manifestation, it was like, I was in grad school before I started doing QHHT for counseling. And it's which counseling is zero spirituality, zero anything. And it's unfortunate because we are the spirit. And I came across Dolores and I couldn't stop reading the books, and I was doing these grad projects, and I was getting frustrated because I was like, why can't we talk about spirituality? How can we do this?
Right.
And I found out you could take the class, and I was in my, like, finished all my coursework. I was about to go to do my internship in counseling, but part of me was like, I know too much now, about spirit, and mental illness isn't always about what we think it is. And it took a little bit of a fight against my guides, but I stopped and I took the class, and it was like, for QHHT, I stopped my program, which was really difficult for me. But you have to do free sessions, and it was like
Yeah.
2 week, because I'm in Western Colorado, which I thought, I'm not sure how this is gonna fly. I was booked every day for like 2-3 weeks with people that wanted free sessions. And I was like, if this isn't a sign.
I know. Oh, when it's supposed to happen, it happens. You know,
Yeah.
I had been a secretary, and my first husband and I split, and my daughter and I were on the road. He disappeared for a little while, and ended up at my parents' house. And my dad said, well, what do you want to do? See, the thing is that my dad, when I was young, I wanted to be an actress. My uncle sent me books on Stanislavski and offered to take me to New York. My grandmother was going to come when I graduated from high school, but I was still 17. And my dad just said no. Actually, I used to resent him for that, but I probably would have fallen apart, because that lifestyle. So he said, what do you want to do? Well, I on and off had a desire to be a nurse, but he always poo-pooed it. He'd said, you're just going to be changing bedpans and all this. So I brought it up again, and he was like so desperate for me to get my life together because of my daughter. He said, fair enough, you can stay here, we'll watch Nicole, So I got into nursing school, but check this out. They had some sort of program through the city, and it was only a 2-year program, but it was like 435 people took the test, and out of that, they took 33, and I was one of them.
Oh, wow.
With no previous experience. And I ended up doing nursing for 20 years and loved it and did a good job at it. It's so weird. And so I did that. I used to read to get my extra change for my nursing thing, but I never took that as what I was going to do. It wasn't until I got cancer. So there's always some sort of path.
Yeah. And it's not always clear.
No, you can't figure it out. That's why I tell everybody, get out of your own way. People look at me and say, Linda, I've been practicing. Why can't I hear my guides? Well, obviously you're not a vibrational match. Whatever you're practicing isn't matching it. But people, instead of saying, oh, okay, they get frustrated. They focus too much on it. It's hard to tell people. It's like people who mourn death. And I'll see their deceased loved one, and I'll say, if I could bottle this love and energy they have and give it to you just underneath your nose so you could smell it and taste it, 1 minute you wouldn't mourn that person again ever, because they're in paradise. It's a beautiful feeling. And there's no such thing as death, which takes a lot of relief for a lot of people. Yeah. And the other thing is, sometimes they're talking away, but you just can't hear them because vibrationally you're not a match. You're overthinking something. But don't sit down and try to figure it out. Relax, breathe, and allow, and tell them your desire to hear them. And you'll probably, because I literally get a voice in my ear. How about you? Any voices?
It's more just, I know it's weird. I don't, sometimes I get words and phrases, but I know it's just annoying. And I think that they're very active and vocal, and they have always been. So I haven't known any different. Because it was like way back when, I was one of the ones who was like, oh, I don't even know if I have spirit guides and everything else. And then someone I knew did like guide readings, and so he
Huh?
tapped in and he was like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. He was like, you can have him back. And I was like, the thing was, is it totally made sense to me, even though I was in that questioning realm. Like I totally know why he doesn't want them with him. And it's just because they're always, I know they're always on my back, and they play with me, and they like playing pranks, and they think I'm funny because I think get in my head too much. And
Who does, your guides?
mhm.
My guides don't play no games. Shoot.
Well, I see
They
it as
better not
more
play games with me.
sometimes they do. I have this funny story where it was this guy, he was like a recovering math teacher, and he was getting into spirituality and trying to like wrap his mind around things. And he had this question about time, like how is time not linear and all this different stuff. Anyway, one of the things we talked about before his session was he said, when I'm home alone, I hear this really faint music, and it's just where I can barely hear it. And I said, well, does it, is there a time period? Can you tell what they're saying? He was like, no, it just barely audible. And he said, I just want to know, am I losing my mind? What is it? But it's always when I'm home alone. So we went through a session. He had the most amazing lifetime. Anyway, we got to his higher self and his guides, and I said, so this is one of his questions. Um, he's talking about this music, and they said, oh yeah, we just do that with him. Like,
To screw with it.
no, it was F word. And I was like, I was shocked, and I think that's one of the only times I've heard like guides or higher self or anything cuss. And I think it was just maybe the matter of translation, but it was. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, he just needs to loosen up. He takes everything so seriously. So we play that music just to just to
Drive
play
him
with it.
nuts.
So after he came out, I told him, I said, so this is what your guide said. And he was in shock because he was kind of, and he was like, I said what?
I know. So is it, I have been, people have tried to put me under. I've gone through about 4 or 5 hypnotists. I never can be put under.
Hmm. Everybody can be hypnotized. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of different elements at play. And I think that one is the trust issue. And so, you can't just go to someone and say, hey, hypnotize me. With at least with QHHT, it's like you go through 2, 3, I've had sometimes 5 hours where we're going over someone's life and developing kind of this trust and everything else, because I think that's the biggest thing, that you have to feel comfortable with somebody in order to go under. But I mean, in the bigger scheme of things, we're always hypnotized. We're driving and we miss a turn, or we're listening to music and we don't hear someone call, or I mean, everything's hypnosis. It's just we don't
Watch
see.
TV.
Watch TV. Meditation is a form of hypnosis. So um doing art, any type of hobby, running, walking, it's all a form of hypnosis because it's where we're putting our attention. So
Yeah.
uh, I think it's just a matter of finding the right person, because that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. I went to some lady in San Francisco. I tried, but I was curious. But I think I kind of had some sort of memory in Egypt. I was a daughter of somebody who was a bigwig in Egypt. And of all people, Jesus of Nazareth was in Egypt. He must have been, because I saw him there in physical form. I was very taken by him. I've always been drawn to him. So that was a curious thing. And then I had a guy who was, when I lived in Laguna Beach, you could go at what do you call it? Something hour, happy hour.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the people I knew in Laguna were drunks.
Yeah.
And so everybody would go to the happy hour. I went to get a drink so I could have the food. They always had a little buffet.
Uh-huh.
And this guy, I can't remember what his name was, but he was psychic and he was a drunk. So he one day he looked at me and he said, you had a past life as a Georgia Southern Belle, which is weird because, see, I was born in Georgia. He didn't know that. And he said, you used to flirt with men, married men even. And, you know, I could see myself doing that. And he said, you got shot. You were young, but you got shot. Someone shot you in the buck, whatever the buckshot went through, and you died a miserable death in a room. I can see all the medicine bottles. And I remember thinking, that's interesting that he said that. But, and the fact that he didn't know that I was born in Georgia. But I had a dream before my sons were born that I was wearing this long white gown in front of a mansion, like a Southern mansion. And I had long auburn hair. And these two young boys opened the door and were telling me to come in. I was their sister. Come in, sis. Come in now, sis. I remember their faces looking through the door, and I loved them in that dream. I just loved them. And I was saying, I'll be there. And I laid down on the grass and was looking at the stars. It was so beautiful. And, you know, it was just beautiful. And later I realized those, because another psychic named Patricia McLean, who's now deceased, she was the best psychic I ever had, and astrologer. She said I was going to have two sons, and she didn't know if they were twins. I thought she was lost her mind. And I think those two boys are my sons I have now.
Yeah.
That they were coming to me.
Yeah.
You feel it?
Yeah, that's kind of how I tap in, is I get flashes of past lives and things. So that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, people wanted me to do past lives on them during readings. You know, I can't say I can do a past life, but sometimes I'll get a hint.
Yeah.
Like they're in this relationship with this person. I'll say, you know what? You were in this relationship in such and such a time. It's because the guys are telling me what to tell them, but I can't say I'm a past life person.
I can't. It's like, it's almost like if I try to do it, I can't. But then when I'm meeting with someone, and it's you know, I've really hit on the head, because it's people be talking about their life now, and they're experiencing like physical things, and then that is almost like, okay, this, like, I hear past life, and then as they're describing, because usually if we're carrying something in the physical body from a past life, we're redoing a life. And so what we're going through is basically kind of a replay of another lifetime. So as it's happening, it's like the pieces start falling into place. Like recently, I got this whole thing about this woman was out in the forest. She was like the, you know, naturalist. And then she met this guy who ended up being a powerful politician. They had an affair. They came out that he was married and she didn't know it. And then she was burned at the stake as a witch. And it came through with this client. It came through like all this. And she was like, oh my God, my husband was married when I first met.
Oh my God.
So it was almost like this weird, like it was basically because she was reliving it, and she needed to find her own empowerment in this life because she had lost it in the other where she was killed.
Right.
And she has these problems with, truth and authority and being, it was great.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, any advice you want to give everyone?
I do know that so part of what September is about is there's going to be a lot of things that are going on externally in the weather and politics and everything else, but it needs to be seen from the perspective of not, oh my God, the world's falling. It's a process of purging and clearing and letting go, and it's what's passing away rather than what.
I know, but I feel sorry for our young people because we have just had one drama. You know, in my lifetime, I went through the president of the United States being assassinated, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, riots, the Russian thinking that we're going to get bombed. And then we go into 9/11, and then we have COVID, and we have all this drama. Trump, he caused a lot of drama. And it's hard to settle. It's like, don't tell me there's going to be, when can we just have a little peace?
It kind of goes through that everything that, what you were bringing up earlier about, just sometimes we have to go through it in order to see the light on the other side. And, the COVID, I've recently gotten that, a lot, and this is difficult for some people to hear, especially when you've lost a loved one to COVID, but that a lot of these people who passed away were actually, it was already predestined, because those souls are actually going to be part of this new energy and vibration.
Right.
So that was one stepping stone, and bringing people together through COVID, even though it didn't seem like it, recognizing our humanity, and then moving into the next phase of what they're going to do. So even that's come through for me too, that it was not a good time for us, and there was a lot of stress. It did change the world. It was traumatic. It caused other issues, but
we were on lockdown.
Yeah, but we also remembered our humanity. We made connections. We reevaluated what matters and what doesn't in our lives, which continuing with spirit is always, sometimes we have to go through that in order to really remember what's in our heart.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So
thank you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you too. It just sort of flows, huh?
Yeah, it does.
So I'm the hostess with the mostest.
Yeah, definitely.
And so everybody can go to Discover Your Light. I went to look again today, and I thought I hadn't subscribed to you. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm subscribed now.
Yeah. Kevin Lewis and I are going to be doing a series pretty soon. So
On what?
It's going to be more people post questions in terms of just, what's going on, kind of what I was just talking about, like, what's going on, what we can do to protect ourselves. And, people can post questions in terms of things that they want to know about. So it's more direct or viewer led, so that I can and he can give space, because we've done some sittings together and had some pretty powerful experiences. I think we have a shared guide.
Wow.
A Native American woman that kind of is around his area in Canada. We had this really powerful session together. So we're going to start that. So I'll have something more interesting on my channel.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love me some Kevin.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. He's so nice.
Yeah. He's been a coach of mine. So
So everybody, I want to tell you too that the results of the biopsy for Mel will come in on Wednesday. And Mel and I will not be doing a show this week. We're going to do again next week. Just FYI. So, well, thank you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
That was fun.
It was.
And, we weren't talking about politics all the time. I did politics yesterday so much I can't see straight. Yeah, but people like to know. They just always want to be reassured.
Yeah,
so,
it's understandable. Yeah, it is. That's important.
You didn't get any past lives on Trump, did you?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, just FYI. Next time we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I haven't even thought about doing that.
Yeah. So, I'm going to try, I'm having surgery the end of the month, so I'll be out of commission for a little bit, but I'll be checking out your channel.
Okay.
All right, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.